Wow, well, what a fantastic conversation we've just heard, Robert and Gerardo, and thank you for agreeing to stay on for this opportunity for our audience to pose some questions to you. We've had several questions already coming in from the audience, so perhaps let's dive straight into them with a question to you first, Robert, and of course, Gerardo, your thoughts on this as well. What's being done in the next 2 months to ensure a positive outcome and result on the EMSA situation?
Well, that's a great question. Um, we are finalizing our strategic corrective action to the MSAF audit in March of 2020. And what I can say with you is we involved our stakeholders. This is not just a marina corrective action, but it's the entire maritime industry of our country. They own this, and we are very proud that we came up with such a comprehensive strategic actions. We will be coming up with the final draft by next week. So that's the update so far of our actions regarding EMSA.
And you feel, Administrator, that it will be comprehensive and unequivocal.
Yes, it's such a comprehensive report. It's like a book. It's a big like this, and all the things that we have done in the past 19 months has never been done in the past 16 years of in addressing EMSA concerns.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Sounds like a very comprehensive response is due imminently. So thank you for that. Um, there's a couple of questions that are perhaps grouped together around sort of vaccinations and the future, taken from two different angles. One looking at your thoughts on on crew replacement in general in kind of a COVID landscape. Are we relying on vaccinations alone, or is there kind of an alternative future strategy for, dare I say it, the next black swan event or pandemic like event, should there be one? Perhaps let's take that first.
Well, first of all, I'd like to inform everyone that the vaccination program of our seafarers is very successful. We came up with a group that looked into this, and our strong engagement with the Department of Health, them providing our seafarers the vaccination requirements. In June, we have only vaccinated 1 to 5% of our seafarers. 4 months later, after we were involved actively in the vaccination of our seafarers, now we have problems producing seafarers to be vaccinated. We have so much vaccines available now, but our problem is how to produce seafarers to be vaccinated. So we're happy that in spite of us having the most number of seafarers, 900,000 all in all, I think we have successfully vaccinated around 80% or some 700,000 seafarers. So it's a good number. It's a successful program. But I think one of the challenges of crew change is the number of um, access, people that will be allowed to enter our international airports. That's where the problem lies. And we are hoping that in our engagement with the IATF, they will increase the number so that our Filipino seafarers on boards can come home now and be replaced with with Filipino seafarers as well. So those were the two: vaccination, and then the numbers that are allowed to enter our airports, because it's very minimal.
If I can add to that, we were just chatting earlier that the crew that are on board the ships today, they're probably not as vaccinated. And so as they come back, the idea would be to vaccinate them early on as soon as they arrive so that they will be ready to deploy. And because the government has ample stocks, the game has changed. And I think if we can focus on that as they arrive,
Yes.
they will be ready. But the crew change challenge still, I think, is a function of the fact that different countries have different situations, and how
Yes.
they evolve in terms of their own health status will determine how easily it will be for people to move in and out of the country
Yeah.
or countries.
We have opened 6 ports for international crew change based on the guidance of our Secretary of Department of Transportation. These ports, 6 ports, will not be just during pandemic that we do crew change, even
Yeah.
post-pandemic. So we have opened up 6 ports, and other countries do not open their ports, but we have opened up. And then that's a very positive
Yes,
aspect
yes.
of our.
And I think, Chris, to your question, what do we do going forward? I think what the administrator has emphasized now is the fact that the Philippines wants to see itself as a maritime service center. So whether it involves the development of crew, the services for crew, crew change as a crew change hub, wherever it makes sense. That's what the Philippines is trying to provide. And yes, of course, we never know when the next 99-year event will happen. And I guess we have to plan more business continuity exercises because this last one really caught us by surprise. If there's anything, though, the reaction time, the fact that in 12 months a vaccine was produced, the world learned so much more based on the evolving science. So hopefully the lessons learned there will be incorporated into risk management protocols that will help us through the next type of similar event.
Do you think the kind of the improvement to those risk management protocols is perhaps one of the bigger lessons that we've learned from the pandemic to prepare us for a repeat of this situation, God forbid?
I hope so. I think we've learned a lot, and maybe what needs to be incorporated in a lot of the international conventions is what happens when a global issue like what we just went through happens. Uh, Issues like the Maritime Labor Convention, which are supposed to provide the protection, the ample protection of seafarers, uh, took a back seat because of the concerns of government for health issues. And so the barriers went up. When a lot of these conventions were developed, they weren't developed with a global pandemic, for example, as part of the scenario building. So I think we need to revisit these conventions and the rules of the game and see where we can provide flexibility in the future so that the Green Lane protocols that the government has put together can remain consistently applied as the situation on the ground in different countries change. Frontliners, as has been described, need to be treated differently without trying to compromise health in this case. But if we don't provide the facilitated movement, we aren't going to get economic trade going. And at the end of the day, I think what has really helped the world and the global economy has been the fact that the shipping industry, thanks to the tremendous sacrifice of our maritime professionals and all of the people in the shipping industry, has been able to continue to operate. And through that, the global economy moved forward.
Yeah. And if I may add, Vito, we are going to have the IMO General Assembly from December 6 to 16. I'm sure lots of this will be part of our agenda, and we
Yes.
will raise on how we can institutionalize the things that we are doing so that in the next 99 years, as you said,
Yes.
this will not happen
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. That's very good.
Yeah, very, very important. I'm sure that IMO General Assembly has a lot to talk about this year, more than ever before. Sticking with that kind of commercial, structural aspect, we had a question in that was directed to the Undersecretary Beltran, who obviously isn't joining us for this Q&A portion, but perhaps Administrator Emperadad, I could put this to you. But one of the identified obstacles in promoting the country's ship registry is the old taxation system imposed on Philippine flagged ships that discourages potential registrants. How can the Department of Finance, well, I guess more broadly the government and policies that affect this, address this to promote the Philippine registry?
Yes, please.
Yeah. First of all, we presented this problem to our leader, our administration. I mean, Senator Bongo through through his staff, and because the removal of the the income tax require an amendment of the law, and that will take us a longer period of time. If we can remove that income tax, that's the reason why a lot of the foreign owners left us, is because of the income tax. The second one is the requirements that all the crew will be Filipino crew. So we will have to adjust that. Probably we will allow them to choose officers, but the non-rating and rating will be Filipino crew. And then the other one, if when they are due to repair, they have to be repaired in our shipyard, which is very expensive to do. So these are the the things that we have to remove, so that we will encourage our foreign owners to register in our flag. And then the problem is the process of licenses is very long. We have improved a lot already. We allow automation, meaning they can apply online, so they don't have to come here for them to apply for the flag registry. Yeah.
Chris, I think that question to the government is something that various stakeholders have been working on, and we recognize that the challenge is changing the rules and the legislative. The legislative process makes it a little bit more difficult and time-consuming, but it is on the table, and hopefully in the next administration, these issues can again be tackled. I think from the private sector perspective, we would welcome a strengthening of the Philippine registry, and I believe that there are three elements aside from a taxation regime that needs to be discussed. The change in the chattel mortgage, the hierarchy of liens, is something that also has been put on the table. As the administrator pointed out, as to move to streamline the processes in order to be able to make it easy to register a ship and move ships in and out, including whatever digital processes are necessary for seafarers as well to get themselves licensed. Of course, from the Philippine perspective, we would like to continue to promote an all-Filipino crew, and I think this is something that we've discussed. I know that there's always been this back and forth and saying, well, you can allow any nationality. Of course, I would like to think that, with all due respect to the administrator, that we would like to maintain a sovereign flag. And as a sovereign flag, of course, we would like to promote Filipinos. So I guess the challenge is there, and we are proud, I believe, of having a good quality Philippine registry. So we will work closely as a private sector with Marina to figure out what are the key elements that will make the Philippine registry competitive, compelling to foreign investors. But certainly, I hope the administrator won't mind that I continue to wave the flag for the development of many more Filipinos, not just as ratings, but as officers. And we use this term able-skilled as opposed to able-bodied, because the future is going to be driven by technology and more automated systems. And so our educational system will have to be able to provide that capability to enable the competency of future generations. But I know that the administrator has talked extensively in our discussion earlier about the 10-year plan of Marina and his own nine-point agenda. Certainly a lot of work that needs to be done. And the stakeholders are engaged discussions. They don't always agree, but I think that the result of these engaged discussions becomes better policy making. So we thank the administrator for those efforts.
Yeah, fantastic. And on, I guess on that note, we've very briefly there touched about the future skills needed amongst seafarers, I guess. And we had a question in asking what Marina is doing to prepare Filipino seafarers for the eventual commercial operation of autonomous ships. I mean, eventual is a key word there, right? But thinking about that in the future, what can or is Marina doing to look ahead for that skills need and prepare for it?
Yes, thank you, Chris. As I mentioned earlier to Dito, we came up with a study group that will look into our strategic plans or action plans to address the automated ship. And we are coming up with a workshop that will involve all the stakeholders, the maritime industry stakeholders, so that we can come up with better alternative strategic actions in the arrival of the automated ship. But based on the meeting with the MSC, I think 2 weeks ago, this will be a long way to go, but we are going to be prepared for that.
If I can add, Chris, I think that at the end of the day, that question really is a question for our entire educational platform. The fourth industrial revolution is on us. The Internet of Things will continue to be here and will drive a lot of the way we live our lives. So we have to learn how to deal with technology. It's going to be a people, process, and technology approach. And certainly Marina knows what it needs to do. The challenge is how quickly we can make that happen. And certainly from the stakeholder standpoint, the private sector, we recognize that future generations of maritime professionals have to be able skilled. And we have to work backwards, not just for people in the university setting, but we've got to go back into the high school, elementary programs. The more we can be attuned to technology and evolving technology, then that technological divide will not be as wide, and that will enable Filipinos to not only be maritime professionals, but any kind of professional that will help in their own career choices.
Fantastic, thanks. And we've got a few minutes left, so just kind of moving on to, I guess, almost a recruitment and retention angle, if you will. The shipping industry, as we know, has kind of grappled with shortfalls of competent crew, and that's been exacerbated by COVID, sadly. How do you see COVID affecting future Filipino crew retention and attraction of new joiners into that industry, and how are shipping organisations prepared to deal with that issue, do you think? Dito, perhaps to you first.
Yeah, COVID has been something that has frightened people, and we are now trying to get ahead of the curve, if you will. Vaccinations have certainly helped. There remains some uncertainty, but I think the proof of this whole program has been the fact that the infected numbers have gone down. Now, has that deterred an interest in the maritime industry? No. In general, no. It may have made it difficult for people to move around, facilitated movement, and that we recognize because of the health protocols that have been put in place. But from the Filipinos' perspective, the interest to go to sea is for two reasons. Number one, the financial rewards are tremendous. And secondly, what motivates the Filipino diaspora is the fact that they can help the families back home. And as long as opportunities in the Philippines are not as attractive as these other opportunities, people will sacrifice, be away from their homes, and drive the opportunities that are presented to them. So I feel personally, and from our own knowledge, and we've been monitoring this regularly every year, our projection is that the Philippines will continue to be able to provide seafarers well into the future. The challenge will be to make sure that they are able skilled. And so the discussion I've had with Administrator Empedrad off camera earlier and on the past whenever we've met was, how do we ensure that the educational system can really provide that competency that's necessary? And competency from the standpoint of appreciating technology and automated systems. As soon as we are able to get that gap better addressed, then whether you're a maritime professional, an aviation professional, a healthcare professional, the way of the future will be driven by technology. And so from the Philippine perspective, whether it's local education, local industry, or the Filipino diaspora, we have to assume that technology will be the language spoken. So I remain very confident and very optimistic that there will be many Filipinos who will still want to look at these very attractive industries. And that's why we feel, and with Marina, that the shipping industry moves the world. And through Filipinos and the maritime professionals that are involved and engaged in this industry, we do our share in helping this world move.
Fantastic, thank you. And we're at almost at the end of our time, if we probably are. But just one thought, one final thought from both of you. Crew Connect Global will be back in Manila as a live event next year, as we know, towards the end of November. With your crystal balls at your hand, what do you think? What would you like to see this time next year? What one thing that could change in your minds would happen in order for you to say, do you know what, actually, yeah, the last 12 months have been a real improvement and we've made some great moves here?
Well, if you look at the number by UNCTAD, they say that there is an increase in the number of employed Filipino seafarers. We are number one this year, ahead of other Asian counterparts. And why are we being number one? Because of the resiliency of our seafarers. Our seafarers continue to stay aboard ship over an extended period of time. They don't mind to stay aboard ship for more than a year, because they are resilient, because it's part of our heritage. And we are coming up with a better program on the educational side. We are transitioning to a new curriculum that will allow our seafarers or the future seafarers to graduate in college before they are required to go aboard ship for their required sea service, because before they are given the certificates for to become a seafarers. So I think the future is bright for us, and we are doing everything to first in the digitalization of the things that we are doing. I think this is very important to address the challenges of the pandemic.
Yeah. And Dito, your thoughts? What does success look like in 12 months' time?
I think success is to stop talking about COVID and talk about the next set of problems that we will probably and most likely be facing. If we've learned anything in these past 20 months, it is that our risk management protocols need to go beyond one organization. They need to go across various regional and geographic boundaries, because we operate in a global environment. That is for shipping. And so between how governance is set up, between anticipating that global disruptions can certainly disrupt a global industry, our business continuity plans need to focus on how we will assure and facilitate the continued operation of this industry. If COVID proved anything, it highlighted the importance of the shipping industry and how the heavy movement continued to happen. And we see, for example, these surges in orders and the dislocated movement of containers and how that has an effect all the way down to the consumer. So we have a big role to play. We have an important role to play, a big responsibility. And I think looking forward, we need to think about the last 20 months and use that as a way to create a more effective path going forward. As has been said, we know that there will be many unknowns, and we know that there will be many more unknown unknowns. If we've learned anything in these last 20 months, it is that there will always be surprises. And so the more flexible our plans are, the more anticipative we can be on a continuing basis, and the stronger our private public sector working relationships are, not only within one geographic boundary, but across various geographic boundaries, and the interplay with the aviation industry in order to be able to move our crew to where they need to be. All of those are the topics that we should continue to focus on. So exciting times. I mean, they've been very difficult these last 20 months, but the industry is here. The industry has proven its worth. The maritime professionals have shown that without them, the industry would not have been able to get this far. They are real heroes, and we thank them. And we thank all of the support staff and our government counterparts in the maritime industry for continuing to work together to overcome many of these boundaries. So we're not going to run out of topics to discuss. In fact, I think that we will have very interesting discussions and debates going forward. And I just hope that we won't wait for the next 99-year event to happen, because it won't take 99-year events. For all we know, it's around the corner. And so, yeah, all hands on deck will continue.
Fantastic. And as you say, we're certainly not going to run out of things to talk about. Sadly, we've run out of time to talk about them today. But clearly this conversation has been very, very valuable. So thank you to both of you, Robert and Dito. And of course, thank you to Undersecretary Beltran for his keynote at the top of this session. It's been a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone for watching today. Hopefully you found this session as engaging and as enlightening as I certainly have. That's it for this morning's or this afternoon's sessions. If you're of course across the world in different locations, we'll be back again tomorrow. Same time. We've got some fantastic sessions lined up for you tomorrow and again on Friday. So please do continue to engage with the platform, meet new people, look for our supplier profiles where you can engage with them directly as well. So that's it from me and from the team for today. Enjoy the rest of your days wherever you are, and we'll see you again tomorrow.